Sounds like my honeymoon. But to use that old classic, that old joke. Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you're married to Bob Hope.
That's right.
That was a weird relationship.
Sounds like my honeymoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, welcome to Quackcast 346 Existential Horror. This is Ozone Ocean with the horrible pit face.
Hello.
The terrifying Baines.
Hi.
And the morbid Tanserine. Hello.
Bonsoir.
Tance is the beautiful Black Widow for this Quackcast, and I'm the Undertaker. And Baines and Pitt are two recently
We're a couple of the
deceased
things.
souls.
Yeah, some of those things from Creepshow, I think, is what we went for.
Oh, I do have Halloween on. Look, I got skulls on my boobies.
Oh my god!
See, where's your costume, Baines?
Totten.
That's my thong has a jack-o'-lantern on it.
Oh my god, Baines, stop showing us! Oh, that's disgusting! Oh my god!
That's what it's supposed to be.
We don't have to shake it. Jesus, man!
Oh,
Oh, that was freaky. Okay, put it away now.
all right.
Don't you just love audio Quackcasts?
Yeah, they're thanking God. Speaking of horrors that things people were not meant to see.
Oh.
Are you trying to segue? It sounds like you're trying to segue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a little shout out. Yeah.
It's enough to drive you insane, mad.
You go insane from the revelation. Exactly.
Precisely.
Too incomprehensible.
So this Quackcast is on existential horror, which was Baines' news post from Thursday. And yeah, that's what
With the idea from Pitface last time. She's the one who said, let's talk about that.
Oh, really?
Cosmic horror.
And I'm unprepared.
Yeah. She had a whole thing that she wanted to say about it, this long, in-depth essay, so we'll hear that.
A plunging of the subject.
We've been
Firm throttle rooting, if you will. No.
We've been all reading up on our Lovecraft and all the other writers from the Lovecraftian era. I can't remember any of them.
There was one, and then there was a whole bunch of knockoffs.
Yeah.
Basically. Nah, there's some other guys, but I don't know. See? We're prepared.
Yeah. I used to know them all.
Fine.
All right.
Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, now first up we have to mention the featured comic, and Quai's going to read that out for us. And the featured comic was Do You Like Fear? So do you?
Oh, well timed. Happy Halloween, everybody, by the way.
Yeah.
When this drops.
Ooga booga booga booga. Okay, take it away, Kwai Tagakse. Go ahead, Kwai.
Hello, this is Kwai Tagakse, and the feature I've selected for this week is Do You Like Fear by Sirocco Phoenix, and it is rated T for teen. A town overrun with monsters once had a short-lived peaceful history. Years before Paul Atlantis was born, his father, the town's hero, defeated a personified form of fear and sealed it deep within the ground. One day, when Pollard was 10 years old, he witnessed his mother being taken victim by a vengeful fear demon. leaving a stone-frozen shape of his mother in its place. The fear demon has manifested in the town, and 5 years later, a group of survivors is rising up to take back their home. This comic is mostly in black and white and uses hand-lettered text. October is the best time to read the story, so kick off Halloween and read Do You Like Fear by Sirocco Phoenix before you go trick-or-treating. Rated T, 14.
And that was the Quiet Gakse with Do You Have Fear? I think that's the title. That's an awkward kind of thing to say.
Do you love fear?
Do you like fear? It's called, not do you have fear.
Do you like fear?
I like your fear.
And next up we have the music from Mr. Gun Wallace, and the music is The Sunless Children. So this
oh my
one
god,
is-
that's another creepy title.
Oh, it does sound that way, doesn't it? Sunless Children. So the this music is flute, violins, and kettle drum stitching together a complex tapestry of melody, weaving a fantastical visual saga through music alone, leading us down an exciting and dark path till a climax in a clash of bright silver cymbals. So take it away, Mr. Gun Wallace. And that was Gun Wallace with the Sunless Children. Okay, so
Is that sunless with an O or with a U?
with a U, because
All right.
all
Quit
children.
tried
making
to catch
wage
you.
veins.
I didn't realize that he might not know, but I thought he probably had it in front of him. So
You
Yeah.
and your existential
with a
question.
U, Bones.
they got no children of the male gender, or there's no sunlight. It's like, what are we looking at here? It's a cool title in any case.
All children are sunless. Well, unless they're really freaky. Unless something went wrong. And speaking of things going wrong, existential horror.
Speaking of things going wrong, welcome to the Quackcast.
Yes.
Yeah. This is my existential horror.
Oh, yes, precisely. So, existential horror. What is really the basis of existential? Jesus Christ, that word! So many X's and S's.
Yeah, you went with that instead of cosmic.
That's
You went with existential.
Say it really fast 5 times.
Existential horror.
Yeah.
Existential horror. Existential horror. Sexy horror. Oh, there we are. Buggers.
Of course.
Super sexy horror.
You sexy horror.
So what?
So-
what? Oh, go on, Baines.
Well, I think I'm not rock solid on what the definition would be, but I think it's kind of, you know it if you read it or if you see it. It sort of is to do with powerful evil or powerful, other dimensional or otherworldly type unknowable horrors
Yeah.
with sort of, incomprehensible power.
Yeah.
The suggestion that we're
Makes you-
insignificant, like all of us on the planet, or like completely insignificant, could easily be wiped out, and
Yeah.
usually has a downer ending. It's kind of inescapable because of that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. Especially that, I think the key word being that you're what was that word you used again? God damn it.
Inescapable.
I've got a goldfish memory. No, not inescapable.
Existential.
No, when you're too tiny. Fuck it.
Insignificance. Yeah.
Insignificant.
Yeah.
It's funny because I like the words I was going through were the words that you guys were suggesting, which was making the brain block even worse. But yeah, and I was thinking yesterday, like, what's the difference between that and a lot of like just like monster movies and like giant monster movies and stuff? Because there is some kind of a difference. A lot of like Lovecraft films and stuff like that will have like monsters and stuff running around, but it's different, and that's what it is. It's just the thing behind the monster is what's scary, you know. Like I wouldn't call Cloverfield an existential or cosmic horror movie because
yeah,
the monster itself is the fear.
it's tangible.
It's not the yeah, exactly. You know, it's you're not afraid of, you know, oh, what created the monster? You know, is it another? What did the older gods come back and soon they shall be released from Antarctica and destroy us all? Yeah. So I was kind of trying to think of what the difference was today. That's about the closest I've got, because a lot of times these stories do end up just kind of being super deep and sometimes kind of full of themselves, monster stories and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I can't talk right now. Words aren't coming. I'm sorry.
you're right.
It's just
They hint at something much bigger that's it's too large to really comprehend. You only get like little tiny snippets of what this horror might be, and it just reveals something much larger and more horrific and ungraspable because it's so big.
Yeah, and the physics are different in wherever it comes from. Like it's from an incomprehensible place.
It's got different rules.
Yeah.
One of the titles of one of the stories, I think, was some kind of unimaginable color from outer space. It's like a
The color from outer space. Yeah.
So you can't even comprehend it because it's something you've never seen before.
Yeah. Oh man. So that's one of Lovecraft's, and I'm going to be bollocks with this stuff now because I used to have a book of his.
I like hearing these English expressions, Connie.
Bollocks.
They're slowly starting to intrude. I'm starting to say quite a lot more than I used to then.
Start off.
Quite something. But anyway, yeah, I used to have a book of different H.P. Lovecraft stories, and I would rent it from the library oftentimes and just go through it and read through it. And it was just see, I'm trying to remember some of the things that I read because they were so long ago, but it's one of the things that I loved about his stories, and you know, when you talk about cosmic horror, you're going to talk about a lot of Lovecraft because he created a lot of the genre, and it's hard to find anything that exists, at least that's accessible enough in the cosmic horror genre that wasn't based off of something he did. So anyway, digression aside, but his stories would always have some pinch of something to it that was cosmic, or that was from the beyond and ungraspable and undescribable, and he would always manage to do it in such a perfect way. Like he'd give you a drop of it. Like one of my favorite stories of his is what's it with Carter? See, I can't remember the fucking name now. This is gonna be a great cast. But basically, it starts off that there's no, not the Mouth of Madness. Although I watched the movie version of that yesterday with what's his name from Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
priceless. Yeah, Sam Neill. That's right. He was fun to watch in it just because he's Sam Neill, you know, and he's got some magic of his own. He's fun, but anyway, what was I going to do? Oh, I was going to ramble on about the story. This one particular story that I liked of Lovecraft's, and it was I can't remember. Anyway, what happens is there's these two dudes that go to this crypt, and they unseal the tomb. It goes underground, and one of them decides to go into it, and the other one stays up with this radio. So kind of a simple concept, right? They're going down for, I forget why. So the other one stays up, and the story stays with the one who's up on the ground at the surface, because it's being told from his point of view. And as he listens to his friend going deeper and deeper in the tomb, in the crypt, his friend is describing these things, these unholy things, but you don't really get an actual description of them. You know, he's not sitting there saying like, oh, you know, there's big claws and there's tentacles everywhere, shit like that. But what's coming through is that this character is finding these creatures that lack an explanation. And so as he goes on, the guy under the ground gets more and more panicky, and he starts running, and he starts trying to get away from these guys. And finally he's talking back to his friends saying that, you know, this is it, you know, I'm done for, get out of here, you know, run, you fool, run. And then there's silence, and then he hears the radio pick up again, and he's calling to his friend saying, Carter, and the thing on the other side says, you fool, Carter is dead, or something like that. And it's such a simple line, but the way he writes it just gives you chills, man, because you don't know what it is. It's something beyond you. And so that, to me, like is the essence of cosmic horror. He didn't need description, this big description of this big monster that came out. It was just that one line, man, that brings you down to nothing. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
I wonder if the movie versions are kind of doomed to not work all that well. I mean, there have been some great ones that are loosely based on Lovecraft, but I mean, did you like In the Mouth of Madness? I haven't seen it in so long. I don't remember anything about it.
I did. I mean, it's kind of silly too, as it would be, but I like it because it's its own thing, and it kind of knows it's ridiculous sometimes, but it's also, I don't know, it's unique in its own ways, and it'll entertain you, you know, it's
right.
And it's interesting because it's, you know, this delve into insanity, and I really like that aspect about it, actually, how they kept on having the characters, you know, they start seeing things and not totally knowing if it's real or not, and then being aware that madness is going around. So, you know, you don't really talk about it, and you kind of, you know, you're kind of trying to deal with, well, you know, what if I'm going mad now? And so, yeah. I mean, it was
yeah.
Yeah, it's told from their perspective, a person's perspective who's slowly going insane, and he doesn't know for sure whether he's insane, whether he's actually experiencing what he's experiencing, or whether it's his own insanity that is making these things, which
right.
is an interesting aspect of
it's all chilling stuff. This whole thing just makes me uncomfortable, but in a good way. But
I think that's where it works.
It's chilling stuff, all of it.
Yeah, those descriptions of insanity, because then it gets it's the horror of your own mind not being reliable, and that kind of thing.
Terrifying thought.
Which plays into something more primitive.
Yeah, if you can't trust that, what can you trust?
Precisely. It's like the delusion.
What's real then?
Paranoid schizophrenic, when they believe everyone's against them, and there's a vast conspiracy. And I think that's really what a lot of the stories are about, isn't it? There's a vast conspiracy.
Yeah, there's always a crazy guy or someone ends up. Yeah.
Like is in a small town or something, and everyone seems to be weird and shady and related somehow. And
literally. Yeah.
I would apart from that, if we're talking about cosmic horror, which is or existential horror, like things that have to do with how you feel or think or choices you make. The choices are the ones that bring on the horror. There are some very good Japanese manga.
Oh yeah.
Especially by, now I don't know how to pronounce this guy, Junji Ito.
Probably Junji Ito. I was going to say
Yeah,
that's probably who
Junji
you're
Ito.
talking about.
Yeah.
Especially the one with the holes in the rock. The enigma
Oh,
of,
Yeah.
my brother just shared that with me the other day, man. That is freaky. Sorry, Tans, to interrupt you. Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, he puts the control in the victim's hands completely, in the sense that they have a choice to not actually go in the in the hole that is meant for them.
Maybe. I don't know.
But they don't know where it leads. They don't know what is happening. They don't know. There is this morbid curiosity that's happening, and the entire horrific thing is looming at the fringes. Like there is no super gore in this particular manga, but you are scared every bit of the way on what you're going to see, and
Oh my God. Yeah.
they just get into the holes one by one until the last one, and then only in the end you get a hint of what's coming. So
Yeah.
and it looks like it's up to you, to the reader, to think about what these holes, man-shaped holes in the rock are, and what they symbolize, and what it means. I mean, you could have all sorts of interpretations, and that, in my opinion, is very elegant
Yes.
existential.
Yeah.
It gives you just enough that your imagination has to fill in all the blanks, but it does give you sort of,
Exactly.
I don't want to spoil this story at all, but it gives you sort of some hints of what it is, but like you don't see a flashback that shows whoever created these holes. Or maybe you do. I don't know. But it doesn't fully explain it for sure. Yeah.
No, it's not explained. I read it recently anyway, so that's why I remember. Generally, this guy, Junji Ito, is really good at creating atmosphere like this and creating horror like that.
He really is. On page 2 of that story, and it's maybe a 15-page story or something. I was like, "Why? Like, run away, run down that mountain now! What are you doing?" Before anything even happens, I was like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Even as I don't remember which character it is that sees the holes on TV. It's like just flip the channel and don't look at it again.
They get obsessed
It's
by
immediately.
them.
Yeah, it immediately sets you. It's like looking at if you have, at least to me, and I have a rampant imagination, but it was like looking at the little eye of hell that was winking at the characters.
Oh wow, so nicely put.
Come here, this sort of thing. So,
oh man,
yeah,
scary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it's fucking scarves.
Ozone has
your
his own existential
hell.
horror. Yes, exactly. Wrapped around his neck.
Wrapped in the scarves that slowly strangle the life out of him.
That's the horror of the Undertaker. With every casket that he buries, the scarf tightens just a little bit more.
Yeah. That's a great one. That story, though. I thought of another one. Pitt, you're in London, or you're in England anyway. Are you in London?
I'm in London.
You are in London. So there's this Stephen King story called Crouch End. Have you read that short story?
I have not read it, but I'm not far from it.
Oh, really? You might not want to read it. It's very scary. It's set there, obviously, and it's written as a Lovecraft type story. And all you have to do is take a wrong turn, and you're slowly pulled into this more and more baffling kind of
Are you pulled
world.
into the crouch end?
Exactly.
See, I especially have to read it because
I didn't
My
even make that
Crouch,
connection.
I
I
didn't
know.
know.
I didn't
Yeah.
even make that connection.
So
please.
that's been the reason why I wanted to go up there. But yeah, now I have to go up to Crouch End while reading Crouch End and being a crouch.
Yeah, and
While
crouching.
taking a crouch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I gotta crouch up there all the way.
Crouching.
While reading, crouching and reading and walking.
Sounds awkward.
That could be an impressive feat. Yeah,
It would be. Nobody would ever mess with me again.
I don't think so.
Weird crouch lady. Oh, jeez. So,
I found it. The statement of Randolph Carter was the story I was talking about before. Just in case there were people sitting there and screaming, "That's a statement, you stupid bitch!" I know.
It sounded very what was the other guy? Edgar Allan Poe-ish. The whole thing going down.
Yeah.
To the crypt.
Right.
It was one of
I'm sure that he was inspired by the likes of
They
Poe.
say that that Poe sort of started. I don't know either of their collections well enough, but yeah, apparently Poe kind of started it somewhat, but Lovecraft really kind of codified it. Or
he had
really...
a lot of antecedents, because nothing comes from a vacuum except the existential horrors, of course, because that's where they live. But
there's also Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that we have Arthur Machen. His stories often have this, hints of that, and Robert W. Chambers, of course, with the King in Yellow, and that was very much had aspects, and of course his contemporaries Clark Ashton Smith and what's his name, Robert E. Howard, the Conan guy. They all sort of worked together somewhat. They have conversations about it and developed the mythos, and actually shared they had a bit of a shared universe, those writers, which
that
not
would
many
be
people really think of today. But yeah, they had
there you go,
they
man. Early shared universe.
Go on,
and also, for some reason, it's, I don't know, maybe I don't hear it very often, but another precursor, let's say, to Lovecraft was Guy de Maupassant, who was a master of horror himself. He played with your mind a lot. He was French, and I first encountered his short stories as I was sitting for an exam in French. So, and it really messes you up with. It plays with your mind in very subtle ways, and you follow the mindset of the monster, basically, usually at least, and you don't know that you are following the monster. So usually you also like the character that is either narrating or the point of view of whom is being used. And then towards the end, he just flips he gives you a piece of information, like a whiplash ending, it is called in literature. And he gives you just a little bit of information, and the entire picture shifts, and you realize that you had been identifying with the monster, which is horror on top of the horror. It's very masterful. I highly recommend his Tales of Terror. It's a compilation of short stories, and they're all about the supernatural.
Tales of Terror.
Great.
Yeah. What was his name?
Pretty. I think it's kind of a classic.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was his name again, Tanch?
Excuse me, what?
What was his name again?
Guy de Maupassant. Yeah, I write it here.
Guy de Maupassant.
Did you just say? Never mind.
It disappeared just as I was trying to copy it. Guy de Maupassant. Okay. I will put that in the Quackcast notes for anyone who wants to check that out. Excellent. French is one of the is an existential horror for me because the accent for French is just so hard for me to wrap my mind around. So it's just the Lovecraftian horror. I just can't comprehend it. It doesn't work with my human brain.
And I also read here that I read a little bit from his Wikipedia that he also went mad.
Oh,
towards
there
the
you
end.
are.
Wow, really?
Oh my god.
That's the only way you get props in cosmic horror is if like you're mad or like you have some like backstory. Like,
Yeah. So yeah, it makes you want to read this guy's stuff even more.
Just as a warning, I mean, when we're talking horror in his approach, it's a slow burner and it bites you in the end. Like you have
Right.
to give it time to create the atmosphere and everything. It's not going to be slasher, gore. I mean,
no,
it has gore.
that's
but
not
it's not
the
going to
nature
be,
of this
yeah,
kind of beast.
yeah, it's not going to be like, give it quickly and, unleash the ghosts and open
Well,
hell.
that brings up
I mean, it
a
opens
point.
hell, but in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a good point because I think a lot of times that might be a reason why some of these stories and well, I was going to say the movies, but the movies probably suffer from something a bit different. Why sometimes they might be highly regarded, but at the same time, a lot of people don't really read them much anymore these days. And I think part of that is because it takes an investment. It takes a slow read usually, a lot of Lovecraft is very much like that, take something like at the what was it, the Mountains of Madness or something like that, where they go to Antarctica. That's a long story for one of his stories. But and a lot of it too is just a lot of kind of walking and searching and inkling and stuff like that. And then at the end, sometimes people won't find that the payoff is worth it. Like some people, existential horror isn't their thing, because they just don't rock that way. And so to put all of that time in a story that won't pay off in a way that you appreciate is frustrating for people. So I think a lot of people find it hard to get into these stories, but for those who do like it, though, it's quite a treat, man. And I kind of like, as we're sitting here talking about it, I kind of miss sitting down, and it's how I would kind of like end my night a lot of times. It's like back in my early 20s, I would work the day at Subway, come home and have a few beer, and then I'd eventually plop myself in bed and I'd pick up my my Lovecraft book that I would perpetually rent from the library and just sit there and read it and then put it down and pick it up the next night. It really became, part of just a treat to look forward to, because like I said, there was always just those tidbits in the story. You'd get to that point that would just be like, it's so hard to explain, just that part that just makes your soul stop for a second, and just, it's so worth it, man. It's so worth it for the investment and the build up, and go read some stuff. I don't know.
That's true.
Well,
You do have to let yourself get immersed in it. It's not the easiest. Like, both you guys make an excellent point in that regard. Like, you have to you have to invest, give it a chance.
Yeah, because as you were saying, there isn't that huge payoff like with a big action kind of climax, but it is a mystery that's revealed. That's the thing. You are let on slowly different small tidbits of the mystery, and then you work out. Then you get to see that the vast conspiracy or the vast horror behind the little tidbits and that kind of stuff. That's what's gradually revealed in an existential horror story. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
the bigness.
I think,
Go on, Tom.
yeah, exactly. I think one of the more famous examples that I suspect that even if people don't like it, they don't feel that they have a right to say they don't like it, is Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe, or whatever. Okay, in Greece it's Poe. And his whole idea and the whole description just involves the great castle that is supposed to be built to protect the rich guys from the plague, and to go from room to room. And he describes all the opulence, and just you know that something has just crept in, and there is something off in the descriptions, and there is something off in everything everyone is doing. Like everyone is pretending that they are having fun and games and blah blah blah, but nobody is really okay. And then you have this flamboyant red mask, or Mask of the Red Death. I mean, he's dressed in all crimson and everything, like the Phantom of the Opera, and he is extremely quiet, and he looms and he lurks, and the entire story hinges on this atmosphere to go to the climax. But you have to read through Poe's every single super detailed Victorian description. So you have to know what you're getting into, but the payoff is big if you prepare yourself for it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That.
Okay. Yeah.
Well put. You can't just sort of read it, like tick off the plot points or something like that and expect to get a thrill out of it or something like that.
Yeah, no, because actually if you consider what is the whole plot of this short story, rich guys build the castle, plague just gets in. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. There isn't.
So we in the forum post about, or the news post, I mean, about cosmic horror, existential horror, it kind of turns to the subject of so-called Lovecraft light, where it's you know, Lovecraftian elements are used, cosmic existential elements are used, but the hopelessness isn't there, and there's sort of there's a sense of hope added into it. This is, I would guess, a lot more common today. It can be a lot more fun to read because you kind of can have your cake and eat it too. Like you get the you get the chill of and the sort of terror and the dread of Lovecraftian elements, but you also have the flip side. It's not completely depressing, and so that maybe takes the existential right out of it. Obviously, that's going to change the whole philosophical underpinning of it, but it can be great stuff.
Okay.
So kind of like a net to in your abyss. Like you don't just fall all the way through the abyss. Like somebody was nice and put like a net there to catch you.
Exactly.
So you think you're going to, but then you don't. Gotcha.
I think it's Kim Luster who mentions Hellboy. So that's very much like a Lovecraftian, other dimensional horror, but Hellboy's destiny is to be the gateway, or to open the gateway for all these things to come through. But it ends up he has a choice. He's a kind of a heroic character, even though he's a hellspawn. Another extremely different example would be Doctor Strange. Like there's a Lovecraftian element to that movie, with the all-powerful Dormammu at the end. So you get a little taste of that Lovecraftian stuff, but that can be great. I mean, I prefer those actually. Really, once people mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I actually prefer those too.
Okay, Tom.
Maybe also Constantine.
Oh,
yeah, I'm saying
probably
maybe also Constantine.
Yeah.
because he also makes the choices and everything, and you have, the iffy angels that some are okay, most aren't,
Okay.
things like that.
Right.
True.
I've never seen it. Is it existential? Is it?
I haven't seen it or read it.
Yeah,
either. It's Hellblazer, the comic, right?
The idea is that you have this guy who, I think he was a lawyer. I haven't seen or read it for a long, long time, and he makes this deal with the devil that he is going to help collect souls and stuff like that. It's something like that, and because he has guilt feelings that he allowed his girlfriend to die, but then he gets entangled in this unfair existence of a soul in hell, and he wants to get that soul out, and then things go domino from there, and it culminates to a huge battle between heaven and hell, and he's stuck right in the middle.
Uh-huh.
So
I would say that it's
once again, I haven't seen it. But I wouldn't say. For what you are describing, it doesn't really sound like cosmic horror, though.
I don't know if it's,
you know what I mean. Like there's does it describe? Does it leave anything to the imagination, or does it just be like, all right, this is heaven and this is hell, and he's fighting for a soul, and like.
I would say it does in certain ways, because the idea is that, at least the way I remember it, it doesn't actually show you hell, and it doesn't show you heaven. Everything takes place on earth. And it generally is about the choice of a human whether to commit suicide or not. And how this changes what happens not only to that person, but to everyone around them. Probably I'm not describing it very well because I don't remember it very well, but I remember that it was like it was the butterfly effect in comic form, in a sense. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But maybe not.
Right.
Okay, I don't remember it. Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Like I said, I hadn't seen it, so I'm not saying like it's not. I guess I didn't realize that's what kind of movie it was. So I'm surprised to hear that it is.
Well, I don't know. As I remember it, okay, because I haven't seen it recently, I might be remembering it the way I experienced it.
Yeah. I get you.
I don't know. Grain of salt.
Okay. Yes. So I was thinking, one of the things that does make this sort of thing appealing is perhaps, oftentimes it kind of reminds you of the sort of stuff that's in nightmares, doesn't it? Like your nightmares are like they'll have something scary, but that scary thing will be kind of nondescript, and like you won't be totally sure what it's going to do, but you know that it has a lot of power to do something. You know what I mean? Like, so like, have you guys ever had any dreams like that? Like that cosmic horror type sensation? And what did you think when you had them? Like, what did you think after you woke up? I know it's a weird random question, but I'm curious.
I'm not sure. Perhaps someone else could.
I think it'd be so hard to describe, but I've had that feeling, and thankfully not in years, but in the past I've had, especially when I've been sick or had the flu or a fever or something.
Okay.
I would have these strange semi-dreams, but also waking dreams. And they were so terrifying, but it was kind of about, I guess just the laws of reality were different. Like it would seem like this is going to sound dumb when I say it, but it was so terrifying like it would feel like my ceiling was really close to me, like the walls were getting closer. Not claustrophobia, but then I would reach out to try to touch it, and I couldn't reach it. And I would feel like the length of my arm was all weird. Just like everything, like nothing made sense, but it was like kind of, I guess, I don't know if you'd call that existential, but it was just like reality was all wrong or something like that. But I was awake for some of it. I always found that like so disturbing.
They twist reality.
That's neat, man. I could see how that would be.
Go ahead.
No, I just said I was saying, yeah, that sounds. It's go on.
I had once a dream like this, but I remember it extremely well. I don't think I will ever forget. Even if I have Alzheimer's, this one I will remember. So I was very young. I must have been around 4th or 5th grade at the most. And I remember that I felt that I was floating in space, and there was, anywhere I could sort of float towards. It meant nothing because I kept being at the same position. And then I realized instead of being in space, I was in space, but also in a giant room, like a huge cathedral, but weird cathedral. Everything was skewed, everything was concave, everything was very fleshy feeling, organic.
Oh, wow.
I felt like the walls were flesh, living flesh. So, and before me, there was a keyboard. And then I realized, like I was putting my hands on this keyboard, and I realized that all these keys were controlling my own body, like my heart, my lungs, everything.
Wow.
And that if I wanted at this moment, I could stop my heart or I could stop my lungs at will. Like I could do anything I wanted. And the moment I realized that, I was terrified. And I woke up, and I remember it's the only time I have movie woken up from a dream.
The gasp and the jumping up. Yeah.
Yes. I actually gasped. I woke up and I first gasped and everything, and then I had to sit up and like feel that I'm okay. and I remember all of that, like every single detail of that dream. I still remember.
Wow.
So,
wow, dude, that's heavy. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Like this. Like this vulnerability in there. Yeah, I've had a couple of them. I've had some of these kind of things since I was a kid, and I'm not going to really launch into them, but I remember I had a few really big ones about a year or so ago, and it was during a time when I wouldn't say I was depressed. Like I was depressed to a degree. But just life kind of wasn't going anywhere yet, and like after I'd graduated, and things had and some family members died and stuff like that, and so I started thinking about death a lot. Once again, not in a sense that was dangerous to myself. But like, what's going on? I keep hearing something. Anyway, it's death. Anyway, I keep on getting distracted. Sorry. Anyway, so I started having these dreams, and I remember there was this one where I was walking in this forest, and there were these pine trees, and whenever these streams happen, there's always some water in there of some sort. some kind of little body of water, big body of water, an ocean, but there's always water and sometimes pine trees. And so I walked, and I was walking through the woods, and I came to the side of this river, and there was something on the side of the river. And I walked up to it, and I saw that it was this dead boar that had drowned. And I was kind of looking at it. I was looking at it closely because I'd been watching a lot of kind of morbid things on YouTube and stuff lately. But so I was just kind of looking at it really close, and I saw that, you know how waterlogged flesh looks like, like turkey skin that has been in grease for too long. It's really gross and sloppy like that. Well, that's what the boar's skin looked like. And on its back, some bristles had fallen out. And I could see where the bristles used to be in the skin. And I was looking at it really closely. And then all of a sudden, there was something behind me, this tall, dark figure. And I couldn't see it, but that's what it felt like. There was like this presence that I felt. And it said something to the effect of, okay, so another important thing was, so it was missing its bristles and its stomach was hanging out. Yeah. And so this thing is behind me, and it said simply, it would grow those bristles back, but it doesn't have a stomach anymore. And then it was gone. Oh. And there was this sense in those words that it was telling me, and once again, this was my own crazy brain. I don't believe, I was visited by anything, but like, it was like a definition, a sort of definition of death in a really weird mechanical sense. Like its stomach isn't working anymore. And so the rest of it is broken. And it was just this really weird, like, thing just came out of nowhere, man. Just like, so I had a few dreams like that were just, I find them neat in the afterthought, but they're just like, I don't know, man. They're weird. they're weird.
The color of madness.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I can't really think of any really existential horror dreams apart from, just the waking nightmares, when you think you're awake and you're not really awake, and suddenly the world starts to swirl and things alter and change, and you're not in the waking world you thought you were. But yeah, that's not so existential. It's just like, sort of, Baines was saying, the reality isn't working the way it should. But yeah,
that's interesting though. I find I like those dreams. I like to hear about them from people, because it's that I think that there's still something very cosmic to them, because it is, so if you think about it, we as people like to know that things are in order. We like to know that the universe is working according to some scientific boundaries. Otherwise, that's where our whole existence lies. So if things start acting strangely, like, the ceiling coming down and not being able to touch it and stuff like that, that tells us that even with something small like that, science is breaking down somehow. Yeah. That shouldn't be possible. And then who knows where it could go from there, like unraveling the threads of the universe. It's just, this kind of shit. And don't get me wrong, like, I think it's really easy. So back to writing this stuff, I guess, I think it's really easy to get pretentious about it. I don't have any examples offhand, but it's really easy to kind of get stuck in your own narrative. And there was a creepypasta I was listening to a few weeks ago that kind of went down this avenue. You could tell, I don't remember what it was called, but you could tell the author was trying to, like, he was invoking a lot of Lovecraft, but at the same time he was trying to create this thing, but it came out very pretentious because he was kind of forcing things into place, and then anybody in the story who wasn't the main character, you know, who was outside of this revelation happening was stupid, or like, you know, it was just this weird, like there's ways to really fuck this up easily, I think. You know, I think you just got to kind of, I don't know. I've never actually written it myself, so I can't say, but it becomes pretentious pretty easy if you're not careful.
Yeah. Who else tries? I think Stephen King tries occasionally.
Yeah.
To work at the existential horror. Oh, there's a good comic artist who does it. James Wright, The Path. That's his comic. So he was a bit drunk ducker. I'll try and find a link to that later on for the Quackcast notes. But that's a very Hellboy-ish, Constantine-ish sort of comic. So it's not on the hopelessness, as Baines was saying. It's more the hopeful, kind of heroic hero fights against the Lovecraftian horror. But yeah, that's
Let's see.
It's a web
James
comic.
Riot, R-I-O-T.
That's it. James Wright, The Path. So that's everyone's job to read that.
There is also another one I've been trying to locate it, that by a fellow Drunk Duck creator. That there it is. Full Moon Stories. Again,
Okay.
there is a cosmic horror involved there. I'm going to link it. Extremely beautiful work too. I mean, very unique style. And I don't know if he has updated very recently, but
By
think,
Vega X, of course.
Oh, Vegas.
I think. But I mean, definitely give it a look,
Yes.
because it's one of the best.
I believe
in
I
this type of
featured that
horror.
one.
Yeah, you must have. I remember it being featured.
Distance and Time. Is that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
Or did you already say the title?
What? No, I said the title of the webcomic is Full Moon Stories. It has
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
series of stories.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can buy it on Amazon too, it
Oh,
looks
here
like.
it is.
Hmm.
Yes, Full Moon Stories by Vega X. Oh,
Gorgeous looking work.
yeah.
Gorgeous.
I love it.
It's a bit of all right.
Oh my god, this hat is so painful. It's giving me such a headache. Well, we're sort of getting to the end of the time for the Quackcast. We might just do a video cast and show off our outfits. That would be a very fancy thing to do. So, yeah, this has been
To leave it for posterity.
forever. This has been Quackcast number 346, the Cosmic Horror Cast, the Existential Horror Cast. Existential Horror. And now we're all going mad. And no one will ever hear from us again. That's how those Lovecraft stories usually end.
Yep.
Unless they walk into our layers. I mean, they will hear from us then, but that
That's
will.
right.
Okay, so bye-bye everyone, and have a look at our video
Bye-bye.
if we manage to do it. I hope we will.
Bye-bye.
Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Happy Halloween.